Right, morning. Welcome everybody. I think it's Wednesday. I think it's the 2nd, so no more rabbits today, Trevor. Yeah, so rabbits have gone, and now we're talking about intelligence or something. So I think it was difference between intelligence and sharpness, and Trevor is okay. I don't know where he went. He was disappearing, maybe because of the intelligence question. And yeah, there you go. And I think we added the caveat of is there a difference between a difference maker and a catalyst? So two questions today. So really trying to confuse all of you. So I think we better start with Trevor now. So Trevor, over to you.
So what was the question?
Yeah, those.
All right. So listen, I'm just raising the thought that I had from the discussion on people being difference makers. And I was trying to think, do I actually go out to deliberately make a difference? And from my perspective, the answer is no. If I look back on my entire life, I've purely been a catalyst. So I thought that might be something to throw into the discussion. And if I think back, I was always, even as a youngster, I was always the primary organizer of something when most people were sitting back and doing nothing. So for instance, there are, if I think back to the doozy, we weren't too far back from Gary Player's brother, oh, for goodness sake, what was his name, who paddled the doozy for the first time in 1954. Thank you. Herman, you can become an honorary South African for that one. Now, only 20 years later, we were paddling behind him. And if you go back to his story, their first adventure down the doozy and into the Umgani, they were paddling and coming across crocodiles there. So about 20 odd years later, I was paddling down there. Didn't really know too much about Ian Player, but we were just doing it as an adventure. And there were no real clubs. So we set up our own canoe club out of there. And if I think about it, our rugby club was in trouble. No one was doing anything. So, as a sort of 18, 19-year-old, I was setting up booze cruises and really beer festivals and all that sort of thing to raise money. And I would do these things and just hand it over to people and setting up water polo clubs and coming up here and merging Zulek and Wits, who were supposedly big operations, but people weren't doing anything. And then this Lonial initiative, when people were being taken out by AK-47 attacks, I was purely the catalyst on that, which ended up taking a bankrupt community to generating well over R1 billion in revenue, pulling communities together, but was always the catalyst. And was looking for people to turn around and say, okay, well, here it is. This is how it's done. Now get on with that, and I'm off. And most of that being a catalyst wasn't too interested in the limelight of it, would prefer other people to go and do it. And as I was thinking about that, I prefer to be reclusive. That's why I've loved this 2020 lockdown environment. So I love being at home. I love being in my own office. I love the fact that Verne can't give me a smack around the ear hole, and I can switch this laptop off and pretend that we've got an Eskom power failure at any time. That's how I like to work. So I just threw that into the pot and wanted to know what other people might think about the difference between being a consistent difference maker versus just being a catalyst or a spark of an initiative and then moving on. So I'm something of a nomad. I move on, have that as an adventurous spirit.
Okay, so you missed the question entirely. So your original question was, what's the difference between intelligence and sharpness?
Eh? So when I asked you what was the question, you said it was between a difference maker and a catalyst. Okay, so if the original question was between intelligence and sharpness, I'm going to allow Ed to handle the intelligence part. I think I was talking at the blunt edge of the sharp side of operating from a street smarts perspective. Okay, Ed, you take on the intelligence part.
Oh, you want me to speak now, do you? Oh, okay. Yeah, using my intelligence, I'm going to totally disagree with Trevor, because he said he was a catalyst. Well, a catalyst is a substance that without itself undergoing any permanent chemical change increases the rate of a reaction. And I think we can only be a catalyst if we don't know we've had an effect. Because certainly what Trevor's done has had an effect on him, because he keeps mentioning it. And I think even if it's just feeling good about something, we're changed. So I think if we're a difference maker, we can only be a catalyst if we don't know about it. And I think with the difference between intelligence and sharpness, I think it's quite interesting, because I belong to a group called the Health and Environment Public Engagement Group, and it's run by Exeter University. And the idea is it allows academics and ordinary members of the public to engage together with the idea of better informing the research done by the academics, because the academics realize they don't really understand much about the real world. And there's some incredibly intelligent people in there, some really bright people, but they haven't got what it takes to make it in the business world. And I've not met anyone in the business world with perhaps as much intelligence as people I've met in the academic world. For example, my uncle was a lecturer in engineering at Southampton University many years ago. And he invented the first concrete structure that was unsupported at one edge. So a big sort of curve type thing. And it was what all the petrol stations were made from, because it allowed traffic to go through without any interruption, because there were no standy up bits to keep the roof up. He made absolutely no money out of that, not a single penny, because he wasn't sharp enough to realize that what he'd done had a commercial value. And I think that's the difference, isn't it? That sharp people understand the commercial value and can see the opportunities, whereas I think intelligent people just see the concept, the idea, not the application. Although I think now Cambridge University, for example, have kind of started this mini Silicon Valley where they've married up academics with business people to try and exploit those ideas. But it's still the non-academics that see the value in the research. So yeah, that's my thoughts. But I don't think you can be a catalyst if you're involved and you know you're involved, because it changes you. So even a small little bit, it changes you. And a pure catalyst is not changed by the reaction.
Great, thanks Ed for that interpretation. Now, as you were talking there, it made me think of one Clive Sinclair. I don't know if any of you ever remember Clive Sinclair. He was an amazing inventor and I think died in poverty. He produced probably the world's first personal computer. In fact, I bought one of his early computers, the ZX Spectrum, in 1982, I think it was. Amazing little device that you plugged into your television for the screen, and you plugged into your cassette tape recorder for the backup storage, and And yeah, he developed some amazing stuff. The first scientific calculator self-assembly kit, I think, which came out in about 1978. You could buy it for £10 and build your own scientific calculator. I mean, we weren't even allowed to use scientific calculators at school in those days, but I think we were still using log tables and slide rules and things like that to do our calculations. But Sinclair built this amazing stuff, and yeah, as I say, I think he got ripped off by everybody that he worked with, and if I recall correctly, yeah, went into poverty.
Do you remember the C5, the car he built?
No.
He built the first electric car, but it just didn't work. I mean, it worked technically, but no one bought it.
Mm. Yeah, so yeah, that's an interesting one about intelligence. So we better go across to the most intelligent person in the group, and that's Cecile, because she's part of Mensa. So Cecile, tell us, are we insulting your intelligence?
How's that? Sorry. How's that for putting me on the spot? But I just want to say, I hope you can hear me, because my neighbor's fiber is not so good. It's spotty, so I can hear it good, like pop, plop, plop, plop. Ed, you made life very difficult for me here with them. I also thought I am like Trevor, I'm a catalyst. I'm a doer. When I get involved in something, I don't like to sit on the sides and just tag along with everyone else. I try to actually, if I get involved in, say, in the squash structure, I want to get onto the committee where decisions can be made, and I want to know what's going on. I don't want to hear 10th hand, oh, okay, this is what's happening. I want to know up front, and I want to be part of the decision making. Now, I'm not sure if that's the catalyst. It's not really what Ed was saying. If you are involved in the thing afterwards, you're not a catalyst. So I'm not sure. Maybe it is a little bit of a difference maker. And to just talk about being street smart or smart, man, this time when we were very, very involved in the Mensa and all the functions and activities that was going on, boy, did I discover how not street smart some of the Mensas are. They are fantastic in their own right and expertise in what they do, but they are naive I'm not saying I'm not naive. My husband always says I'm naive as well. But yeah, they're not street smart. And I actually wonder a lot about really clever people at the moment during this lockdown, if they can't do their, let's call their trade or their business or whatever they were doing, if they can actually think out the box. It was very interesting to see at that time how they can't, if their expertise gets kind of blocked, or then they fall to pieces. I think I'm street smart. I can change direction when I have to change direction quickly. I don't know where I learned it from. Do you get born with it? Do you learn it somewhere? I don't know. Yeah, so that's maybe not a very intelligent answer, but that's mine. My mind is occupied elsewhere this week.
All right, thanks, Cecile. Well, I think we better go to the person with the most experience in this group and find out what he thinks. So, Herman, over to you.
You know, the more I get involved in change, the more I believe that a catalyst is only suitable in chemistry kind of initiates those processes without being touched by itself. Because I believe to be a difference maker, to be a change maker, you cannot do that without being willing to change yourself. For me, that's an impossibility. How can I expect anyone else or a situation to change if I'm not prepared to do the same? Ed, I think the kind of academic intelligence and the practical intelligence is actually merging these days a lot more because of a different kind of approach in education. But by the same token, I'm not sure how familiar you are with Howard Gardner, who came up with multiple intelligences and said, you know, there is a much broader spectrum to express human potential by not just looking, is somebody logically intelligent, or somebody could be musically intelligent. So he started looking at 8 different intelligences, as I said, to cover the full spectrum of human potential. Now, it's then up to us to kind of dive in what we are about and how to utilize whatever strengths we've got. I think intelligence paired with being smart is really the way to success. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Simon. Right, Vinay, let's get across to you next.
Hi, I understood that Ed would give us the real definition of the word catalyst, but my understanding of how it works is that if you're a catalyst, you start something and or you trigger something off. Excuse me, a difference maker is somebody that actually will start something in a different direction. For example, if a school has a cricket team and a catalyst is somebody that would get that team going, whereas a difference maker is somebody who would actually set up the cricket program. That's the way I sort of understand the difference between the two. Intelligence and being sharp. My ex-husband had an IQ of 161, and he was an incredibly intelligent man, and his knowledge was just phenomenal. But it was really restricted in having a debate. He couldn't, he sort of couldn't have a concept debate. It had to be factually based. And I think that's the difference between being sharp and being intelligent. You can be sharp without any formal education or without a high intelligence, because you can actually adapt your thinking and you're open to different thought processes. Whereas an intelligent person is, I think, would be quite dogmatic. And I agree with you, Cecile, that every intelligent person I've met, highly intelligent, they are just so naive. And I think it comes from just actually learning from books and having a mind that works on that linear platform. Thank you.
Thanks, Sunay. I must be honest, I'm starting to wonder whether the definition of intelligence is actually correct. So we'll have to work on that one. So Trevor Coddy, what do you think?
Yeah, morning everybody. 2nd of December, rabbits are gone. Today it's tomatoes. So, you know, it all comes down to tomatoes. If you really intelligent, now we can talk about different intelligences, and I like where Herman was going, and maybe we should have that as a topic for another day. But if you're really intelligent, you know that a tomato is actually a fruit. But if you're really sharp, you don't cut the tomato and put it in a fruit salad. And if you're really a change maker, what you do is you'll take the tomato and cut it in half and give it to a difference maker who will plant it and grow tomato seeds and feed a village. So it's all about the tomato and how you handle the tomato, which will determine whether you're intelligent, whether you're sharp, whether you're a catalyst, or whether you're a difference maker. So I don't know. It's rabbits and tomato season for me.
Thanks, Trevor. I'm just pleased that your rabbits left you some tomatoes to discuss this morning. So, because I think if you let them wild in your tomato fields, you might not have any left. So, yeah. Okay, Jasper, let's hear your thoughts on this one.
Now, I'm just sitting at the feet of wisdom here today. And then is it tomato or tomato? I'm not sure. But coming back to, and maybe a bit to the defense of Trevor there, on the catalyst definition. From a chemical perspective, a catalyst starts a reaction or is involved in a reaction without being changed by the reaction. So you do need catalysts to get things done. And I think it plays into the difference maker concept to say the original components to put things on a different path was already there in the mix. But without the catalyst coming into it, then nothing happens. And we all want to get to the, call it the end result, which is the difference. So I want to almost change intelligence and sharp to something like knowledge and wisdom. So knowledge is knowing about stuff. Wisdom is the application of stuff. And for me, it's more important to be wise. And you don't even need to have all the knowledge, but you know where to go and find the knowledge. But the challenge lies in the ability to see the correct application. And I think all the breakthroughs in life and in science and in society has come from people who were wise. And with wise comes another word, the common sense, which is not common. And that's the ability to see the relationship between things or the links between things, and then know how to correctly apply it. I'm just amazed if I see how foreign people from Malawi and Zimbabwe and other places would come to South Africa with almost the clothes on their back, and just through seeing opportunity in a very short while become financially successful, whereas in many cases our own indigenous groups are not doing anything about the opportunities that's in front of them, but I think they've never learned how to look at opportunity. So to understand opportunity and see the potential, that takes a different kind of mindset. And I think unless you're also exposed to people who think like that, it's going to be very difficult to get that kind of thinking just from reading books. So I don't have a solution. I think wisdom comes from the school of hard knocks of life, and by consciously putting you into the conversation and in the relationships of people who have done it, versus knowledge is the easy part. You can buy books, you can go to university, you can study degree after degree, and people might end up calling you a doctor, but it doesn't mean a thing. So yeah, so that's my contribution.
Great, thanks, Jasper. All right, Donovan, let's get across to you.
Morning, everyone. Yeah, I'm sure we've heard of the book that Robert Kiyosaki wrote. I hope I get the grades right. He said that the A students work for the C students and the B students work for government. So the ones who are street smart or clever, they know how to access, the intellectual capabilities of those who are more intelligent than them. And that's how they thrive. So I think it's a combination of two. You need both on board to get to something. I remember when I was on one of our construction sites, we had a bit of a challenge. We're busy with the shutdown, so things had to happen very quickly. We had one of our, I won't say old, but he was quite elderly site managers. So we had to make a plan to build a lifting beam. We had to do quite a heavy lift. So he didn't have time or ability to do the calculations and all the theoretical stuff. He just said he made it big and strong, and that's how he did it. He just used his street smart ability and just figured that's how it's going to work, and it worked. So you need smart people and intelligent people to achieve the desired result. Thank you.
So that's my little take on it all. Yeah, I think it's an interesting question, and you know, as we're going through this, you know, I've got to truly wonder is our definition of intelligence actually correct? You know, if somebody is highly intelligent, then surely they must be able to adapt and change and move. You know, so you know, Renee's description of her ex, you know, interests me, and Ed, you know, with talking about the academics that have this sort of apparent high intelligence, but they fixated or stuck within their paradigm, and they can't actually move out of that paradigm. So yeah, as I said, I'm wondering whether we need to reevaluate what intelligence truly is. So yeah, those are just my thoughts. And I think, you know, I spoke about Sinclair earlier, and Trevor popped up Nikola Tesla's name in the chat box as well. It's also a fascinating story if you look at the kind of things that he had developed way back, and you know, it's stuff that's sort of people are trying to reinvent right now. And I mean, he had it all down almost 100 years ago, and but was ended up, I think, committing suicide or being murdered. I can't remember exactly the end of that story, but he certainly wound up in poverty at the end of his life there as well. And he should have had the world on the right track probably 80 years before Elon Musk has taken his name for his electric cars. I think Tesla had all that sort of stuff sorted out a long time ago. But so yeah, intelligence, sharpness, difference making. You know, sometimes you're not allowed to make a difference. I mean, you think of the kind of difference he could have made if his inventions had been allowed to actually take shape and weren't flattened by the big steel and coal and other powers that were at the time with the money that could actually take him out. So interesting challenges.
Ivan, if I can come on board there, that Tesla story is absolutely amazing. I think he died at about 84 years of age in a hotel room. When I saw the program, but it was actually pulled, which was quite interesting for the conspiracy theorists to try and work out why that program was pulled. And while we were in New York, to have a look at the hotel and how it was developed, and they say that hotel was designed as his massive electrical conductor. It's a fascinating story to go through and what they've done. And I think it was on a program called, it could have been Ancient Aliens or something to that effect, or these people all delving into fascinating things that are happening into our universe. But you've got to have open mind for these things. You can't be too intelligent. I think you've got to be sharp, and you've got to be able to work out cryptic clues and do cryptic clue crosswords. If you can't do those, I'm afraid you can't be sharp. Cryptic clue crosswords are not for intelligent people. Ed, I'm going to throw that down to you. Ivan, have you got any plans?
I do cryptic crosswords, so yeah.
I knew you would.
Yeah. I think I've actually got those Tesla documentaries on hard drive somewhere. They are fascinating. And yeah, I think a lot of his stuff was brought into some of those other documentary type exercises as well. I don't know if it was Ancient Aliens, but it was certainly one of those in that sort of line. But yeah, some really fascinating stuff.
There was a connection between Trump's uncle, who headed up the CIA investigation team, who took away 100-odd boxes of stuff that was hidden in Tesla's room or in this particular hotel, and they can't find about 40-odd boxes of the stuff. And they reckon this became all of these funny things that we see in the sky that people think are aliens, and that this is all the technology that came out of Tesla. So it's interesting to try and fit those gaps. I still look in the sky. I've not yet seen an alien. I've invited them down to come and have a chat to me. They're not interested. So if anyone has seen them or anyone chatted to them, has got a hotline, just send me a contact message. I'd be fascinated to have a chat with one of them.
I think they're still searching for intelligence on Earth, Trevor.
Oh, damn it. Are you saying that they've bypassed me here?
Probably all of us, yeah. Right, so...
And listen, can I also add in, Ivan, the work that you're doing behind these virtual event platforms, I've just got to give you a pat on the back. And also to Ed, yes, Vinay as well. Ed, thank you very much for your contribution yesterday. And it's maybe something that we should now be starting to talk about. Out of the Wisdom's Chats formulation is, okay, what are your plans for 2021 with the type of things that we've actually been doing? I think we've made major breakthroughs in this discussion forum, this type of Zoom format, and I don't think we've even scratched the potential of what we have here. This is huge, and yesterday again showed me how huge it is. A group of people, 5 people that we'd never met before, apart from COVID-19 lockdown having forced us into communicating with these people around the world. There were 4 fantastic speakers, and Ed was there as well. So well done, Ed, for stepping up to the plate. Really, the 5 of you were phenomenal. And what stood out for me was that by laying down the recording of these, the digital recording of these, we have laid down content. Someone mentioned we should be bottling this. Well, we're actually bottling this. And we are bottling content that we can take snippets from, and we can turn that. So maybe this is about distilling out of these conversations little snippets of difference-making content that can be shared with the rest of the world. And again, to me yesterday, it demonstrated for me, and I've got a vested interest in this, obviously, $1 a month times 1 million people. If there are 7 billion people in the world, it's just such a small percentage of people that we can actually touch, and then we can look to work with scale to get a return for all the people that are actually involved here. And perhaps, Vinay, you'd like to comment on, I dropped you in the cart and I saw you made a little comment here that I come up with the idea and then I drop it into your lap. What happened yesterday? If you just want to share that quickly with folk here.
So what Trevor has done is he came up with, obviously the team came up with Wisdoms in the UK, Wisdoms 1 to 3 in the UK, and he has asked me to sort of try and drive it and to get it to work as well as the Wisdoms does here in South Africa. So I'm on it, I have noted it, and I think it can work. I think to take it worldwide is really a good idea. And I've given some thought to finding someone in the US that can actually drive it across there. And I have some good contacts in Australia, people that I believe would actually be able to run it. So yes, I will definitely be driving it.
Right, so there you go. You can see Trevor was the catalyst and Vinay is the difference maker.
And I thought the structure yesterday was really good as well, and I'd agree with Trevor, Ivan, that the way you managed the whole thing was really, really good. And I think without that backroom stuff, you can't do the front room stuff, can you?
Right, thanks, guys.
Oh, well, that's where Ivan comes in. I think when an electrical storm came over, I thought that maybe I'd shut the entire process down, which I've done before, by pressing leave. But obviously that didn't happen yesterday. The other thing that I just want to touch on there, Vinay, and it's also on this point of being a catalyst, and it's recognizing that a catalyst and a spark. So I'm like a match, and that match doesn't last long. So someone has got to take over and do all the organization, and that's where you come in from a company's secretarial perspective, which is the key to forming large operations that can build and establish themselves over a long-term period. So I thought that to me was very important. So there's stuff that lots of stuff we've got to talk about, Verna, and I'm using this opportunity to turn around and say, I'm excited about you positioning yourself to actually take what the Sparks do with the intelligent people like Ed and bottle this like an SA Breweries. We put 1 million odd bottles out over the next couple of months.
Great, thanks everyone. And I think Jasper's topic is right on the money. So let's pick up on the importance of timing. So it all seems to be about timing, you know. It doesn't help to strike your match when you're sitting in the middle of a river, Trevor. So yeah, it's likely to go out. So if you get your timing right and you do it when you're on the bank, you might start your campfire and be able to cook some food. So let's hope we can all get that one right. So folks, have a fantastic day further. Get your timing right. If you need a tune, go to the garage, but enjoy. Have a good one.
I have my annual mammogram tomorrow morning that time, so I will not be on the group. Ivan, I was just thinking, when you move one day, all you have to do is take all your hard drives, everything of yours on your hard drives. It's going to make your life easy.
Well, my wife's thrown anything else away, so it doesn't really matter. That's all I got left.
But
so.
Cecile, take us in on your cell phone with you, man. Just give us an experience that we've never had before.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I'll try that. I'll ask them for the password. I'll spy on their password on their internet. See you all on Thursday.
You can't toss challenges out like that to Cecile, if she'll do it.
Yeah. Bye, guys.